So I get asked all the time from new investors how to get involved in multifamily investing. I think after researching various podcasts and books, it sounds very tempting to say, yeah, this is passive. I just put some money up and I get paid. But when you find like anything with a good return, there's some work that has to be done. And so today I'm really excited to have a member of a multifamily team that's in the business, one that I know so well. I invested some money with them. Chris DeCelle from Discover Multifamily. How you doing?
Hey, Bill, how are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. Regular on the call, been a guest, a visitor at times. Really glad to have you here. Now we do live stream this on the YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So if you have questions, feel free to type in. If you have comments or other properties you want us to look at, feel free to put them there. But the goal here today is that Chris kind of gives an overview of what does it really take to develop multifamily projects and bring them to market where people invest along with you as an investor. So let's back that up a little bit, Chris. How did you get interested or involved in real estate investment in the beginning?
I grew up taking care of apartment complexes, mowing lawns and clearing sidewalks of snow and everything like that when I was a youngster. And the owner of the complex would always tell me, "Hey, you must buy real estate," and that always stuck with me throughout my whole life. And it was really good. And then, as a freelance television director in 2011, I was able to start to save up enough and get into buying apartment complexes and rehabbing them, and making them solid investments. So that's a quicker version of the long story that we have. And then through our relationships that we've developed over the years, I've been able to perfect our model, constantly working on new ways to enhance not only our returns to our investors, the living experience for our residents, but also it's allowed me to learn so much more from my partners and our teammates, which are so valuable to the whole organization.
Now, previously you did investments by yourself. Now you're part of a team. I happen to know a pretty good sized team because I know I've talked to a number of the members. What caused you to go from doing it on your own to being part of a team?
Well, I was blessed to meet Nathan Cloud, who's our principal and just our main partner. And I thought I knew a lot, and it was the best blessing of my life, to be honest with you, because he knows an extreme amount. He comes from Wall Street, so he thinks the way that Wall Street does, but he also does it in a way that he can break down, so he can also talk to the mom and pop investor, and his skill set that is just really enables them to learn about investing and about the whole operations behind the scenes that really, to be honest with you, is not so glamorous. But, and he's taught me that as well. So I help to convey that message in a solid way so we can retain our investors and get new investors and really make the living experience and our teamwork and everything else work, in concert with each other. So we're constantly getting better.
To your point about him being exceptional, I'll share with you as an investor, one day I got an email saying there was a change in the plan, I think changing the branding. And he said in there, like, if you're interested in talking to me, reach out. And I thought, yeah, people say that. He's a busy guy. I hit click. Next thing I know, I have an appointment and I had a chance to talk with him a little bit. And he walked through the investment in detail with me, spent about, I don't know, 15 minutes, half an hour. Really sharp guy. Really enjoyed the time we spent. And so I'd say, what my general rule is when somebody who is smarter than you says, yeah, give me a call, give him a call and ask him some questions. He really is a sharp guy. But you guys have a pretty good team. And I think what's interesting is so many people think they're going to get to where they want to go on their own. And I just think that's wrong. You really need to find people to have under you, with you, and above you in order to make it work.
It was pretty funny. So Nathan and I met on a previous deal, and he bought the deal to the people I was working with before, and we just hit it off for some reason. We went out for dinner, and I think we talked for like 3 or 4 hours. And I don't know, I had something inside me saying I was going to know Nathan for the rest of my life, and I don't know why. But and again, I've learned so much from him, and and I thought I knew a lot, right? And I do, but now I know better. And the way I can present our work as from our whole team aspect is so much stronger from our relationship. And I learn every day. So it's not, I don't come in as all knowing, and neither does he. And the way he teaches, it's really friendly to me. So that he grew up on Wall Street and I grew up on a creative field. So he makes it so that he's not belittling. He presents it in a factual format that I can easily retain, and then spread it out to our investors, our potential investors, and to help the whole team grow.
Now, so many people come into this business looking to get a multifamily, and the only method they're taught is going to Facebook groups and different online groups and get kind of pitched deals. It seems to me those deals are kind of picked over and passed through, even though they sound off market. They're off market for a reason, because they're so far off market they're never going to sell. Obviously, if you're an organization and you want to consistently find properties to invest in or to bring to investors, you need to have a system to find those deals. And so what intrigued me was you kind of explaining how you approach the market different maybe than some of the other people or some of those who aren't successful. Can you share kind of the high points? How do you consistently find properties that are worth investing in so you can bring them to investors?
So one of the things that I've always known, and so is Nathan and our team, is to always have really strong relationships with the brokers, because when you deal with apartment complexes, the traditional ways of going out and like beating the pavement, and, sending out mailers and stuff, that's just not going to be a success for, multifamily apartment complexes that are usually 100 units and bigger. So again, Nathan created a database, and instead of spraying and praying over the whole state, we've really concentrated on specific areas that we know we can scale because we already have teams there. And so he created a database that is second to none. And so we target the whole city of Houston and Dallas, which we're doing right now, in a way that so we'll know if a property is underperforming, we can go out and target it ourselves. So if we see that the loss to lease is not what the market is doing and the property is underperforming, we can target that as a possible acquisition.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So let's go back to what you said, a couple of things. Number one, your organization has a database of the properties. So you're looking at those specific properties, and specifically you're targeting Dallas, Texas, and Houston, Texas, correct?
Correct, yes.
Now that doesn't mean if somebody brought you a deal outside that you might not look at it, but you're not actively engaged in finding properties outside those areas.
We find it's just great value to focus on an area where you can excel and where you already have great vendor relationships. We already have great employees, as opposed to trying to restart the model in another city, which we'll eventually do. But at this point in time, we think our value and our time is more well spent on targeting specific markets so we can grow as a team in a more, efficient manner.
And that's not to say that I don't know people who are investing successfully in other states or outside where they live. Okay, I'm sorry, I have a family thing going on here. I just need to finish this up. But it means that why not play to your strengths? And so specifically, particularly as a new investor, I always say, why not start where you are all the time, where you live or where you work, right? So approximately how many people are on your company team? How many people are with the Discover Multifamily Group in total?
We have, including our on-site staff, probably close to 20 right now. It includes, managers on site, maintenance, et cetera. And we have an asset manager, Mike, and accountants and things like that. So we're small but growing.
Well, yeah, that's small actually compared to many. You're good size. But my point was just to say you have at least 10 at the corporate office alone, and you have maybe another 10 or something on site or whatever that number is. And so if you're an individual, now you're competing with people like this, and yet they're only looking in 2 markets where they have teams in place already. And so if this is a competitive environment, finding good deals, think about what you're doing. You're competing with somebody who has market knowledge, who has staff in the area, has vendors in the area. I think that any investor, I always say, pick an area that's small enough that you can really know the market really well, know the players, know the numbers, like that. The successful investors I've met have always been that, whether it be multifamily, Houston, Dallas, or single family. I know I have a friend who works a certain part of the valley. I forget, like between Sepulveda and whatever Canyon and Colbert Canyon, I think, and like from Ventura Boulevard to wherever, they have a square. They know every house in that area, same thing. And that's all I think really, I won't say that's all, but that's the premise behind what Chris is doing and what Discover Multifamily is doing is they're creating a knowable market and then attacking that rather than just saying, yeah, we'll buy anything anywhere. And I'm sure like you, I get people all the time who tell me as investors, I say, well, what are you looking for? What do you think I can make money on? Well, that doesn't work. Nobody makes much money pursuing that avenue. That's not to say you can't look at a good deal, but the odds of that being money are pretty bad. So
one of the reasons that its value is relationships, not only in a way that you can get employees, but it's in a way, especially for vendors and contractors. So you want to start that process early because we're buying distressed properties, so they're going to need rehab. So to constantly reinvent the wheel in a different city, easily doable, but not really, because you have to build up those relationships. So we're going to use our relationships and nurture them so we can have a benefit both for them and our side as well.
now, full disclosure, originally we were going to talk today about a specific investment that was going to be brought to the market. I can't remember which one's C and which one's B, but one of them you can bring to non-qualified investors. I think that's a C, and B is qualified only. So we can't talk about that particular project today. But in general, your company's in the multifamily marketing business. You're raising capital for different events from time to time. And so what do you see consistently amongst the investors who invest with you and do well in that and other investments versus those that, you and I see the same people all the time who just never really get started. Their money's in the bank, getting 0.001% interest rate. What's the difference between those that pull the trigger and get started and those that don't?
I always tell people to learn while you earn so that they can really enjoy the process, because we're always taught in a way to invest in stocks and bonds, et cetera, from an early age. But the real estate investment world is not really taught. There are those gurus that pay me a lot of money and I'll teach you how to do that, but we don't find that as an efficient model. We think that our investors should share in the wins in a way that it is in a tax-friendly manner, so their investments will make money over time. This is not get-rich-quick schemes, but it's very tax-friendly, and it's a way that our process doesn't change. So we do the same thing. We're very, very astute. We make sure that we have a plan. We stick to the plan because the market's going to go up or down. There's going to be trials and tribulations, and we stress test everything as much as possible. So when we have those trials and tribulations, we're not going to have a capital call. And when those things happen, we will make sure that our investors are protected, number one, but we're not going to have to spend money needlessly or have capital calls that's going to affect the deal negatively and our investors negatively, if that makes sense.
I'm a big believer in what you said is learn while you earn. I think it's important. I know that personally, I really like Grant Cardone Capital as a starting point. I think you can get in there with his non-qualified program as low as $5,000. And one of the reasons I recommend that is A, get started, B, a small amount, C, he sends out really professional documents that I read and learned when I started. When I joined with you guys the first time, I got a really nice update regularly and annually on the process and nice explanations, all the numbers. It's all there in math. And like I said, I even had a chance to read, of course I can call you. I know you well enough, but I just on a flyer, clicked on Meet Nathan and had a chance to learn with him as well. And I do think it's important to learn along the way because either you find there's a problem. If they're not giving you information, there's usually a problem. As a general rule, if people don't talk about things, that's a sign something's wrong, by the way. That's a clue. And so I do think that learning while you're earning is important. And number one, read the documents. The reason why the companies are sending to you is because the government regulators say they have to, and most probably wouldn't but for that. But I do think it creates a sense of accountability. They have to send it out and be willing to defend those numbers. And if nobody's checking them, then they're going to get away with it. And our job is to check it and learn what that means. So you guys do have a really nice package.
We really think it's important. We invest our own money in every deal, our own hard money. So we're on both sides of the deal. And we want our investors to know that we're there to protect their money as well as ours. And things, when they go bad, I usually call people and tell them, man to man, woman to woman, or whatever. So they're not watching the news because, we've had things that go on, and over the last year and a half, some major things have happened in the market that have not made it so smooth. But when those things happened, we pivoted in a way to protect the capital, right? So we did not lose money for our investors. So
That's true. I'm one of them. So
yeah,
I can say, you guys emailed me right away. You called me personally. You guys sent some emails. You gave me a chance to call in and check on it. And it's been an adjustment in the marketplace, but I wouldn't back out of it. I think, I got to do something with the money, and I'm glad to be there. So I
but
could
now
choose some other ones.
fast forward, those properties are performing even well above our expectations.
Yeah.
So it's not a straight arrow up, and it never will be. But the good thing is, when we suffer those trials and tribulations, your capital is going to be preserved in a manner that would be consistent with our values. So that's really, really important. And when those things happen, we'll call and tell the people, person to person, this is why it's happening, and this is what's going on. So they fully know. And my phone's always on. And we share everything because we are right shoulder to shoulder with our investors.
So if somebody was a local real estate broker in multifamily, they had a listing or they're in that business regularly, is that something that you're looking to have reach out to you? Are you reaching out to them, or how does that relationship process happen?
So for a lot of the bigger projects, apartment complexes, the broker relationships, you'll have to go to, Newmark, JLL, et cetera, like that. And you have to, I feel like I'm kind of running for mayor sometimes. You have to, shake a lot of hands and kiss a lot of babies and develop and nurture those relationships. So when they have a deal, we'll be on their call lists. And it's pretty important that when they call, you say yes or no, but you give them a reason why within a timely fashion. So then they'll keep returning. And it's okay if you say no, but we have a specific buy box. So they know our criteria going in. So, we're not going to do, buy in a bad neighborhood. We're not going to do, Section 8 or any of that stuff. So they know our buy box. So when they call us and they give us opportunities, we'll have an answer within a couple hours because we've done a lot of the research already. That's really, really difficult, and it's really, really hard. So we'll know the market as a whole. That's why we're targeting those specific areas. So when we get those deals, we'll already know the deal from a high point, but then we'll dig down, and then either we're going to move forward or we're going to pass.
Yeah, as a broker, that's the most important thing is if you're not interested, if I get an answer back, at least I can check it off my list. And then sometimes that means push me to get more answers. Sometimes it means go back to my client and say, hey, that price isn't going to work. We need to make an adjustment. And the sooner we can iterate, the sooner we can figure out where the market is, the sooner we can get the results that our customers want. I think that's really important as a broker. So great. And so you're saying, I think if a broker has a deal that they think is a good deal, they should talk to you about it. And worst case, you'll say no, and you'll tell them why, and they've learned that, and they have a relationship with you for the next deal. How would you recommend for brokers in other markets who don't know you? But obviously, there are other Chris DeCelles in other cities, Florida, and other states besides Texas. How would you recommend them to go about getting the attention from the investor community as an agent?
You know what I always do, Bill? I always look at the track record, even when I was investing with others. And if I was a new broker, what I would do is look at the successful people in the downtimes.
Yeah.
Because there has been a lot of up and down times. But if you see people who have been successful and when the market is not performing, they're going to be around for a long time. So that's what you want, because the deals necessarily are like marriages. So you have to deal with the same people for several years. So whether it be brokers, managers, investors. So you want to have people that think like you and see the market like you, so you can capitalize on that. So and there are even some newer companies that have done really well lately when there's a lot of people who didn't capitalize their projects correctly, so they're forced to sell. So you'll know that because of poor operations and they don't have proper management and stuff. So I always go look at the track record, and then I always look at the person too. So look at their LinkedIn profile, on their social media profiles too. Are they doing stuff that you might not see the world in that same view for whatever reason, and then you just want to make sure when you reach out to somebody that they say who they are and they will follow up and do the steps necessary to have those successful relationships. Because I've talked to several people for years that still have not invested with me, but I still retain those relationships because sometime they will. So I would imagine from a broker standpoint, you're not going to make your sale on the first phone call, but maybe the third or fourth, or sometimes seventh and eighth, which might be over a couple of years. And then it's always good to build those track records, because when the people are young and impressionable, even if it's company, as people grow and those companies grow, you can say, hey, remember we started talking a couple of years back, and I have a property that might fit your buy box and might meet your criteria.
Right. Yeah, I find, look, I've been on for a while. When I see somebody who's full-time been at it, since, well, nowadays, 2005 even, they've been through a few cycles. When you see somebody who started in 2017, 18, they've been through the good times and they're hanging on, but they don't have any good habits that get you through those difficult times. I know, my business is solid. I mean, I'd like to do more, but I'm doing about the same I have the last couple of years. I'm working about the same. I take more time off with my family probably, but it's because once you establish yourself in a business, you can recreate those results rather than just riding the waves. What are some resources that you'd recommend if somebody who's new and wants to learn more about multifamily investing and or looking to find a way to build a business in this space? Where would you direct them to get additional learning and additional networking? There's a million multifamily programs, and I have people all the time who come on and tell me they've spent $10,000, $20,000, and they've got, and which I have a problem with. If you're going to build a business that's worth $500,000 or $1 million, $20,000 is great investment. They just, so few get that return. I just find it crazy. So where would you recommend somebody go to?
I'm a voracious reader, so I always read a lot. So I read a lot of books on how to, and the whys, and the operational side, and the financial models, which I thought my financial model was really good until I met Nathan, and his financial model blows anything that I've ever seen away. And I feel blessed for that. I can't say that enough. But the other thing too is people can use the library. A ton of books are in the library, and then there's great YouTube videos as well. I would not spend the course, the 50,000 pay me how to do real estate courses, because I just don't think that's valuable. That's why I always say learn while you earn, because then you'll be able to have a success. Because if you understand the process, right? I think everybody wants to be a general partner, but they don't realize the business process behind.
I do. Not interested. Thank you very much. It's for younger guys like Nathan with strong stomachs. That's a tough job.
It certainly is. So that just dealing with the insurance, the banks, and then dealing with employees, and employees have their own lives, and then dealing with the problems that come, because everything just doesn't happen like it has. As the business plan unfolds, you have to learn how to pivot. You have to learn how to adjust, and oftentimes it's on the fly. But if you've been in it enough where you see the problems before they happen, and that's why I think Nathan and I make such a great partnership, is because we've been around the block, and now we kind of foresee, of course, things are going to happen and pop up that are not going to be as smooth, but we're going to know how to adjust and do it in a friendly manner. So we're not going to disturb our residents. We're going to support our employees to really keep the business going, and to do it in a way that's going to make the investment more solid, as opposed to the hope and pray method, where we hope and pray it goes right.
There's, one of the things I tell people, this is the best time ever to make money, and particularly in real estate, and for a number of reasons. One is there's more cash sloshing around looking for a home than I've ever seen. That doesn't mean they're giving it away, but there's cash available if you can meet the criteria. Second, anytime there's transitions, those are opportunities, right? So the jump up in rates are hurting a lot of investors and investments, but that creates opportunity for other investments. And I think the third is there's never been so much information for free. You mentioned YouTube's, so many great texts that I bought as books, Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad Poor Dad, literally is free on YouTube. You can buy an audio version or get an audio version and listen to it for free on YouTube, or download in PDF format some of the old classic books as well. If you had to pick one or two books for in real estate to kind of push somebody to learn a little bit who is interested in investing, what are one or two that you might recommend?
From a book standpoint, I think there's a lot of them out there. I would focus. I literally focus a little more different on. I focus on the economist side. So I read the Economist daily. I follow the
Whoa.
RBC. I'm
Hold on.
sorry.
You read the Economist website daily?
I try to.
Magazine or
Yep.
on-
I read it in the morning, and then I follow economists. There's a lot of them out there. I also read the Wall Street Journal, but I find the economists from RBC have a good thumb on the market. Not everyone's going to be perfect. I find more value in that because once a lot of those books say like Think and Grow Rich, et cetera, like they're very, very similar. They have the same intentions, but they just tweak a little bit. One of the great things that I learned from Nathan is to think like the bankers, think like the insurance people, and think like the other side of the table. Because if you do that, you're going to understand what their needs are, what your investors' needs are, what the insurance people needs are. That will give you a quicker education than reading a book on how to model a property. So I would always say partner up with somebody that has done it before in a way that is consistent with your values, because that's the way you're really going to learn. And I read over 50 books how to invest in real estate. But then after a while, I felt like it was the same thing, just a tweak here, just a tweak there. Oh. And there are educational websites that are really good, like Bigger Pockets and things like that for fundamentals. The one thing that I disagree with Bigger Pockets is to start small. And I just think that I've been around it long enough is it really makes sense to start big because that passes better stress tests. Because if you have a fourplex and it needs a new roof or boiler system or HVAC system, that's your profit for a year. And that's a lot of money. And then if people move out all at once, which could happen, could you meet the note, for the payment? Some people can, some people can't. So I think people should focus more on the economist side so you understand how money works and how money works in a bigger context, even though you might be doing a smaller deal. If you understand, how the banks and insurance companies work, you're going to be that much more successful in a quicker manner, and you're going to protect your capital and know how to stress test, to plan for things when they go wrong. So, and really, and everybody says this, right, conservatively, but what does that mean, right? Really make sure that you have your model in a way that built in so that you have enough net operating income in the bank where you can protect the asset.
Yeah, you're so right. People say that in market declines, the cash flow still performs. And the answer is that's true if you're at a cash flow point. But when you buy a value-added property and it takes you a year or two to get it turned around, you're vulnerable until you have the cash flow. Unless you have the right financing and or rate caps and such involved to protect your business. And we're finding now a lot of people took a riskier approach, didn't rate cap their permanent financing, and now are paying a price. They can't get their deals to finance, and they need more capital. It's a challenge. Hey, some real quick housekeeping. We are live streaming this on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you're watching live, say hi, put in the chat box. Ask Chris a question. He's an expert in multifamily investing, raises capital, has done it individually, done it as part of a team. Love to have you participate, number one. Number two, this is the official podcast of the LA County Real Estate Investors Association, which is a great program. We get together live on the second Thursday every month. Upcoming September 14th is Cliff Gager. How to be a successful wholesaler. I've met Cliff before, interviewed him. He's fantastic, very fun speaker, very interested. It's at the Iman Center. It's a live event that's free. We get about 250 people there. 6:30 a.m. p.m. starts the vendors fair, and then he speaks around 7:30 to 9:30 or so. So again, street parking or free parking. You get there early enough. Free event, September 14th, 6:30, and then there's a vendors expo right before that. We'll get about 50 different vendors, 250 people there in total. Great event. Love to see you there. I'm talking to Chris DeCelle of Discover Multifamily, and you go to discovermultifamily.com is the website if you want more information about them. If you want to invest, you can go there. If you're an investor, you can log in here. Who are they, their portfolio, their strategies, and under who are they, you're going to find the team members. And if you click down under team members, you're going to find this handsome guy. So there you go. So ladies, you want to print it out and see if that's your guy and impress all your girlfriends, feel free. Okay, so where are we? Let's take that back out. So yeah, so we're just talking about stress tests. So I'm sure you see, other projects, and you're not going to necessarily talk about them or name them, but what are some of the red flags you say, ooh, that's a problem? Like they're pitching it, but you can kind of see up front something's wrong. What are some of the red flags you see in other projects that you're not investing in that other people are promoting, or are there any?
Here's a good tell that I always look for, Bill. If you look at the current taxes, if they're in a deck or their model, and you can Google all the taxes are usually online somehow. Sometimes take a little digging, but usually it's in a governmental website, so you can see the current tax rate. The taxes will always be adjusted upon the sale. So if they're the current tax rate in their model and not the adjusted one upon the sale, then I would not invest with that said person, because that doesn't really that could be that's going to be a big swing, and that could make a big financial difference. The other thing too,
that's such a good one. I see that one. I never really thought of it. I mean, I see that mistake. That's a tell, because you in my spreadsheet I have, based on the new purchase price, the taxes, not the current information. I've had the current as well, but the proposed has to have an adjustment because we reassess at the sale. In fact, if we don't do it right away, we have a supplemental bill that's due about 6 months later or a year later. That's a great one. Thanks. What else?
But that's the one that I frequently find. And that's what I look for right away, because then I'll tell you right away. Then it doesn't matter about anything else in the deck, because that tells me that they're not paying attention to that could be a big swing in the numbers. And so all the rest of the deck doesn't matter, because that is not going to be correct. Their model is not going to correct. The other thing too is realistic costs, right? Over the last year and a half, our employee costs went from $1,200 a door to $1,800 a door. Our insurance tripled. Our inflation caused our cost of goods to sharply rise, almost by 25%. So if the costs are unrealistic, like if they have employee costs at $700 a door, that's who are you going to get to work for that? And then if your insurance are not proper, it's going to be a disaster. So you have to really kind of work those numbers in a way that's going to protect your investors, because it's better to be over and than way under, because way under, that's just going to make it a bad investment opportunity.
It's so true. The costs sometimes are so unrealistic for the market. You get people out of market who don't price, water and power here in LA is more expensive than other areas, or say in Florida, where it's more expensive as well. Insurance costs, I don't know necessarily they've tripled everywhere, but they've gone up a lot everywhere. Everywhere. California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, everywhere it's gone up. And all costs. My neighbor who has a business, like a retail food services company, he tells me he can't even get people now at $18 an hour, whereas 2-3 years ago there were $10 an hour jobs. They're just not even, those people aren't even available at $18 an hour. So it's a challenge, and to get good employees. You can get cheap ones, but cheap ones aren't cheap. Cheap ones are very expensive because they're going to turn over, they're going to steal, it's going to be a nightmare. So expenses is a good one to look at and I always feel like, just ask the question, how'd you come up with that number? And if they say, well, we've got 3 other projects in the area and this is the average of the current numbers, and you look at it and it makes sense. But sometimes people get the books or spreadsheets online with formulas that may not have anything to do with reality.
The cool thing about us is we know the formulas, they don't change, right? So they either the numbers work or they don't. So we know if a deal will work relatively quickly. And then the other thing too is we've been doing it long enough so we know what real costs look like. So as opposed to unrealistic costs. And it's important to know your market, and it's important to pay for employees that are good, because if you don't, you're going to just be hiring, and people will leave for $1 more an hour. It's really good to pay your quality employees or all your employees, and treat them well, which we do, and make it so we listen. So when they tell us stuff, we can learn from them, because it's a constantly evolving marketplace for great help. So you got to listen.
The number one job of any business, if you have employees, now, I don't have any employees. I have virtual assistants, and I have downline members of my organization who are salespeople who align with me, but they're not employees. But one of the things that you can tell any organization, successful ones have very little turnover because they realize that their employees are their most valuable asset, and they do everything they can to grow them into the next job and help them become more valuable. And when you see turnover, should always be a red flag. They're not treating people well. I remember I had a broker I was working for a time as a manager. He had a rule that we could not let our salespeople, who are independent contractors, hire our front desk people or our frontline admin people to be their admin. I said, well, that's crazy. Our job is to help our people grow. We should have a nonstop turnover of front end people into our organization, deeper into our agents' teams. If every agent only hired our people, we'd have an organization where everybody worked for us at one point. And I think that's an attitude, understanding that your job as employer, if you're going to take that job on, and I don't today because I don't have the energy to do it. I don't have the desire to do it. But when I did, your number one job is to build your people and help them grow either with you or help them find a path somewhere else. And if you see turnover, generally speaking, that is a big red flag that something's wrong. So when you call an organization and there's turnover, or you see something pop up in different places, usually there's a sign of a challenge there. Well, you've given us some good signs. As we kind of wrap up here, give me one last tip. If somebody was looking to build their investment portfolio in real estate, or somebody was looking to get started as a professional in real estate, where would you direct them, or what's one tip or one suggestion you make for them to get started?
I would really read and listen, and then figure out there's a lot of sharks out there who's real with intent, as opposed to trying to sell you something that you don't need. So I'm a voracious reader, and reading is literally going to unlock the key. And sometimes you read contracts and things that are not so glamorous. You'll learn a lot from those. What I would do too is start, and I was lucky enough to have a mentor that really taught me the ropes as I grew along. And I said, hey, I would invest with you as long as you show me every step of the way. And he did. So that's what I always encourage people to do. I always say, learn while you earn it, ask a lot of questions. And then I help out people like that too. And then once, you'd be surprised how many people will say, you know what, I didn't realize how much work's in this. So I'm just going to stay as a limited partner, not a general partner. And then some people grow into that as well, because they really like it and they want that fortitude. So it's all about trust, right? So you have to know, like, and trust. So, and if you have a knowledge base of some basic education, so you have to be decent at math in a way that so you can learn how to read a profit and loss statement. Because if you can read what's frequently called the P&L, you'll know the fundamentals of the business to really make it. Is this going to work? And if this works, you don't have to be such a math wizard, but if you know the basics, you'll be covered in a way that a lot of people won't, because a lot of people will trust, and sometimes they don't verify. So look for track records, and then call current investors of that person and say, hey, what happens when things are going bad? Because when everything's easy, that's not the time to ask. It's when things are difficult, that's when you ask.
Yeah, the classic case of when the tide goes out, you see who's wearing their shorts. I think it's I thinking of? Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, classic line, right? Everybody in good times, everybody's a genius. Everybody's selling a YouTube channel on how they use their system and make $10 million. In times like this, they stop doing the business and start teaching coaching because it doesn't really work. But the professionals are still grinding away. And this is where the money's made, right? This is really the time to buckle down and to save money and to invest it or take advantage of these opportunities that are coming up. So I think anybody who's listening, this is your chance of your lifetime, in my experience. I know I'm not a general partner. I'm never going to be. I don't want to be. Don't enjoy it. Don't like it. But I'd love to invest, and I'd love to make money with other people who are professional and do a good job. And if I could just pass on 2 rules that I have, one is never ask a customer to sign a document you haven't read and understand. And I just think that forces you at least to read the documents you're giving your customers, understand them. And second, don't invest in anything that you're not willing to read the paperwork and understand it. Because if you don't understand it, what are you investing in? You're investing in something that you're just being told it's good, and it always is good until it's not. And those are my 2 rules. I think you guys do a really good job of providing that information and updates, and you've been really, to me as an investor, I really appreciate the chance to work with you guys. So
also too is it's pretty funny. So you said Warren Buffett, right? So like when people challenge us and it's not a good time to buy, and I'm like, well, did you buy when the stock market dipped about 6 or 7 months ago? Because I hope you unloaded your bank account, because now you look like a financial genius, right? So, but a lot of people didn't. So now they want to get back in, and the market's close to its all-time highs, and it's the same in real estate. So there was a lot of people that bought using bridge debt, and now they're not going to be able to perform because they didn't, like you said earlier, they're not able to meet the debt service coverage ratio, and they're not going to be able to sustain their business. So they're going to be forced to sell. So this is the time to buy, because probably this will never happen again in our lifetime.
I've been in this business for 36 years. We've never had as dramatic a swing in a short period of time. And that creates a couple business opportunities that are unique. I think one is subject to is if you're a residential agent or investor, you have sellers who have a loan at 2.75 and they want to sell, but they have to buy at 7%. And if you can monetize that difference using subject to, you can unlock for them what other agents or investors can't do. And in this place of multifamily, yes, it's a shame if you have any properties that you did that were value add, where they did a construction loan and they had to refinance. If they didn't buy a rate lock of some sort, the numbers they presented when they started with the investment 3 years ago don't make sense today. The costs are higher. Most importantly, all the costs are higher. Insurance is higher, taxes are higher, fixed costs are, all the supplies are higher. Most importantly, the mortgage rates are much higher. So that investment doesn't qualify for the financing they set out to do 1, 2, or 3 years ago. And so you want to be aligned with people like Discover Multifamily who are in a position to take advantage of that opportunity for you as an investor. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
DiscoverMulti.com.
DiscoverMulti.com.
DiscoverMulti.com. And appreciate that. And then if you want to reach out to Chris, it'll be in the details down below, or reach out to me. I'd be glad to make a connection. And again, I'm not getting anything from this. They don't pay me. I don't get a discount. I don't get a commission. But frankly, as an investor, I'd like to see you guys continue to do well. I'm looking forward to your next project. I want to be included in it. So thank you so much, Chris, for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it as well. Have a great day.
Thanks. And for the rest of you, this is the official LA County, Los Angeles County Real Estate Investors Club. And we do meet live every week on the second Thursday in Culver City area, upcoming September 14th with Cliff Gager on how to be a successful wholesaler. Love to have you join us for that. And there's the LA Grand Expo, which is coming up Saturday, October 21st. I can't be there. I have a conflict, but I know it's a great event. I went to the last one that was on a Sunday 2 years ago. You have 12 great speakers, a great lineup. I'm actually interviewing many of them and putting it on our website to promote the event. And that's free as well, free admission, same place at the Iman Center. So we do this podcast. It's the realestateinvestingzoom.com podcast. We do it every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. We also live stream it on YouTube and Facebook, and it's recorded as well on YouTube. Hope to see you guys soon. I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media. And as always, make today your best day ever. Thank you so much.